Hello everybody, welcome to Adobe Live. We would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we are creating and streaming from today and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. My name is Flynn and I'm here with JESWRI. What is going on?
Wu-Tang, what's going on?
Wu-Tang, we're going for a hip hop vibe today. You'll see what's going on. Thank you for watching if you are here. If you're watching the live, it's great to have you. Feel free to ask questions as we're rolling along. We're going to be covering murals and how to get your artwork, from Photoshop onto Mural, and chatting all through that. So questions are great during this process. And also we've got some other cool stuff coming. So yeah, please throw in your questions while you're there, whether you're on YouTube or on Behance, feel free to throw them in. Johanna and Annika, hello. Hope you're doing really well. Let us know how you're doing. I hope you're doing great. So we're going to do a bit of a recap on kind of what we covered on Tuesday. So this is the second part of our two-part stream. And we can kind of cover a little bit of that. And I'm going to show your screen, Jesse. So here we go. It me one more time. I pointed the wrong way, by the way. Don't want to confuse anybody.
Subscribe below.
Yeah.
And then we have those TikTok videos like...
Oh man, you don't want to see me dancing.
The 5 TikTok videos to save our generation. Yeah, so it me. If anyone doesn't know me, I am a street artist. I'm a Gadigal street artist living in Melbourne, Naarm. And I've made my career stand out, I guess. I don't know which one I'm going with the conversation. I've kind of carved my way in this industry by making myself known as a bit of a pop culture street artist. I like to paint portraits, I like to paint lots of Easter eggs and like high detail stuff, but in a fun, illustrative way. So I come from a graffiti background. I come from an illustrator and designer background. I've worked in like ad agencies as designers and art directors, and now I'm showing you how to paint a mural and showing you how to put a mural from your computer onto Photoshop, onto the wall.
Something we didn't cover before that I actually meant to ask you is, what did you study? You studied something.
I studied I got a bachelor in communications design from Billet Blue.
Billy Blue? Yeah.
No, Billet Blue.
Oh, Billet Blue is how it's pronounced. I apologise. Yeah.
Don't get it twisted. It's a silent A. Well, not really that silent.
I see. Yeah. See, I learn things on Adobe Live.
What are we learning today, kids? So this is kind of like the type of portraiture I do, and this is the most recent one I've done for Lydia Thorpe, which is the one I'm going to be taking everyone through today. Look at me, Mr. 6 coffees in the morning. What are you doing? So if you haven't seen much of my work before, which is cool, I like to paint large-scale pop culture, large-scale works in general, whether it's private, corporate, or just personal work. I do a lot of brand collaborations, and a lot of my work is super personal, but disguised as like street art, and it's basically I just kind of do what I want to do, and I like doing what I do, and I get paid to do what I do, so which is sick. And also thanks to everyone who is already judging me having my presentation on Photoshop, like how on brand for me.
I love it. Did you know that Photoshop is a presentation tool? Look, it can do everything. All right.
What can't it do? Like, it can pay my mortgage. It can do anything. So yeah, basically, I'm a pop culture street artist / gallery artist / just kind of get it done type of guy. Here I am.
This one, like this is from Vivid. This was like, just last week. You're down here painting walls, putting all of this together, working very long days to get it up.
Yeah, the bags on my eyes are pure Gucci. It was a hard time. It was a hard 3.5 days, 4 days of installing. The project is called Now in ADHD, so it's still up at Vivid from 6 o'clock every night. Installed by myself, and basically the idea of this exhibition or body of work is to make you kind of feel the symptoms of ADHD, and for those who have it, which is most of us anyway, you kind of feel these things. You kind of feel overstimulated, overwhelmed, claustrophobic, and you like pay attention to detail you probably shouldn't. You're hyper focused yet not really that focused. So the idea is to enclose you and like transport you to this realm of ADHD, but in my own personal style, in my own personal way and journey. So you'll find lots of Easter eggs that are hidden from me, my friends. You'll find lots of find me talking about mental health a lot in my work. So I think these are the things that passionate for me, and I start to really lean into personal topics with my work, and I think that's sick as a street artist to do. So
can I just ask you one quick question about the vivid one? Are they did you pitch this as an idea, and it's like an expression of interest thing, and then they say, yes, that's something we want you to do, come and do that for us? Or is it, hey, there's a blank wall, do whatever you want? Like, what's the process of doing something like this?
Yeah, so sometimes it is a bit of a blank wall thing. Someone will come to me like, hey, I've got a blank wall, what would you want to do on it? Or like, we've got a blank wall, hey, can you do this on it? They're the ones I get most of the time. Whereas this one, Dell came to me as I worked with them before.
Right.
And I still have this project here, which I did for them. I did this personal project here. It was just based around the people around me and like life in lockdown. And so the idea for the project with Vivid was that they go, we want you to kind of have free reign. You can kind of do what you want to do.
Nice.
And me being me, I want to make it personal. I want to make it like meaningful. And they said, you can talk about whatever you want, just interact the space, obviously keep it PC as much as you can. And they came to me and it was sick. I'm actually starting to get those work now. I remember when I started, there was a lot of me asking my other artist friends, like, how did you get that job? Or like, how do I also get that job? And I was kind of met with the idea that, it just came to me, and like, I don't know how it happened. And now I'm in that position where it's like, I don't know how it happened. I don't know how it came to me. But obviously years of hard work and just like putting myself out there in public eyes granted me the luxury of not really having to reach out as much as I used to, not knock on as many doors as I used to. So
yeah, it's got to be like time in the game. And we talked a little bit on Tuesday about like the tie between, your personal life and what you do and the brand and how that's weighted and everything like that. Which is big time. Yeah, which was really cool chat. So if you did miss Tuesday, go and check that out. We do go into that sort of stuff in more detail. We have a question from chat. So if you guys do have any questions, feel free to throw them in chat as we're going along. That's a good thing about being live. And the question is, when did you decide to bring your personal life into the forefront of your work? Was there a specific moment?
Yeah, I think so. For me, I was lucky enough to have an art teacher for a mum. So I've always been an artist per se. I've always kind of been very expressive with what I do. So part of me was just like, well, you've got to have my voice in there. If it's not my voice, then it's someone else's voice. I think it took me maybe about a year or something into commercial work to really try and get my message across. I remember starting off painting like, hey, like, what do you want? And then they were like, oh, we want this happy valley of like kids and butterflies and stuff. And at first I was like, all right, yeah, cool. Kids and butterflies, sure. And then I started getting too much of that. And I'm like, well, how can I still like say what I want to say? And then what do I want to say? What am I getting out of it? Because I felt after a while, it just felt like work, even though I'm doing my own thing, even though I'm kind of paving my own way, it just felt like I was doing someone else's work, and so it came to a time and place, maybe about a year in, when I was like, I need to really do my work. I need to push my work over and have a voice. So I think it was quite early on that I had a bit of a voice in the work. I think it was personal straight from the very start. Like I'm very much an open book. People ask me things and they're like, oh, thank you for sharing. I'm like, well, I've always just kind of shared. So
yeah,
thanks for asking, if anything. But I think quite early on.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome. Okay, so let's jump back across to the mural.
Damn right.
in our PowerPoint / Photoshop.
This
Photoshop
is high end, all right. Like, come on. Okay, that's one for me and Dylan. Sick. Showing off.
That was a great mural as well.
Sick. He's so lovely. Hey.
Yeah.
He definitely.
That was like just after he got Australian of the Year and won, like, what was it? The Melbourne Cup, right?
Like days after.
Like days after. Yeah.
He retired when I started, and I was like, oh shit, I've got like a high profile artwork to do now. Yeah, he's lovely though. I've got a lot of time for him. So basically the way I took it through last time was like I had my references to work from. You know, I had pictures of Lydia. I took my own photos, which I think is really important, and I wanted to do the things I wanted to do. Part of it was that, you know, she wanted to have her hair out, so I found references of her hair and drew her hair over it. And I knew it needed some words as well. So part of that was my own, where did I put it? Yeah, part of that is my own typography as well. So this is all hand drawn. I wanted to keep it authentic as opposed to using a font. And that translated very well as well. So after I played with the sketch a little bit and played with the references, found references of her pelt, I took all the references away, and what I'm left with is a sketch. And so I always knew the placement was going to be kind of this, and so if you can't see it very well, there is a big wall behind it, and I have kind of just outlined where I wanted to go on the wall, where things should be. Coming from a design background, not that you would know because I'm clearly presenting on Photoshop. I have consideration when I place my murals. I think about things probably too much, and so I knew that there was obviously a billboard here, and I knew that I needed to have negative space. I knew all these things. So if you forget what it looks like, that's kind of where it is, and for size.
Yeah, so it's huge. You really need the mini Jessie in there to like really understand the scale.
There we go. That's probably another look at it as well. So if anyone's got hypersensitivity to flashes, beware. So yeah, it's very large. I think it's about maybe 10-ish meters high. I could only reach about 7 on the lift, so I had to use a roller pole and some other tools of the trade that I won't talk about on record, but I got it done, put it that way. Yeah. So yeah, basically I come from a background where I design and illustrate first, and I like to have everything ready for me to go, and I take every consideration before I actually start the mural, so I actually know what I'm doing. You know, I colored it and everything, make sure the tones are there. I've got this unique style where I bring in elements of my Aboriginal history, and I bring in elements of my graffiti history and my design and illustration. So it's all kind of amalgamating into this style that I'm very much making my own, being illustrative and intuitive, and I guess forgiving in the way that I don't need to be clean as much.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that I can have my laptop or my phone or my iPad here and have Photoshop on the go as well is something that separates myself from a lot of other mural artists, is the fact that I can work kind of seamlessly with a program and kind of put that into real life, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So you take your laptop out as well? You mentioned your phone as well. Like, do you take it just out like as a JPEG on your phone and kind of zoom in because I imagine holding a phone is a little bit safe. You're trying to hold a laptop open like this. And
it's been done.
It's been done. It seems dodgy. Like you get quite a lot of paint like underneath the keys and on the screen if you're not extremely careful.
It happens. It happens more than you think. Yeah. So that's why I bring my phone out, and I've got Photoshop on my phone, and I've got Photoshop on my iPad too. So, yeah, I actually work quite seamlessly to make sure that I can, play with the transparencies and stuff, which I'm going to show everyone how to do now, how I did it. But basically the idea of me showcasing this is that I use Photoshop as a transparency thing. So I always know I always kind of know what it's going to look like before I put it on the wall. You know, there's not a lot of room for error. There's not a lot of room for guessing. There's, you know what I mean?
Yep.
That makes sense. If anyone in the chat doesn't understand what I'm saying, please stop me at any time. I'm happy to talk through anything. But basically, at this point of the presentation, I'm just kind of showcasing how I can get things ready in order for me to put it on the wall. So I treat the wall in a way as a canvas, and the rest I can, you know, the background I can whatever. But that's in order for me to get approval from Lydia's team. And we were talking about like consideration when it comes to the wall as well. There's more than just like placing it on the wall. I knew that. Can you see my arrow on the screen?
Yep, we can. Yep.
Cool. I knew that, you know, like I said, the billboard needed to be considered, but at this point here as well, this line here, this is the room of effort. So I knew that if this mural was going to get smashed with tags or get paint thrown over it because it's a political mural, I knew that they would have to go to a lot of effort to destroy it. So
I love that. It's such a practical thing. It's something I'd never thought of, but like designing around that, like that environmental piece, like is really interesting and makes heaps of sense, especially if something like that's happened in the future. It's like, all right, well, let's think creatively about this. If they're going to, you know, they're going to have to go out, I think I said on Tuesday, they're going to have to go to Bunnings and like, you know, get a ladder and then get the paint. And by then maybe they've calmed down or found something better to do with their life. But it's a bit harder than just... Yeah.
If anyone wanted to destroy it, they'd have to go put in a lot of effort. So like, you know, that's the point here. You can kind of see it with the pipes and stuff. So like I actually did have something to reference, but also like I'm on a lift to be up here. Like you're gonna have to do the same if you want to put your name on it. Either way, everything is considered.
Yeah.
But yeah, should we get into how we can put it on the wall?
Let's do it.
Sook. Oh, we'll annoy this time. Oh, there it is again. So there, how to get your design on a wall? How good's that? Like honestly, a presentation on Photoshop. I think everyone's really underappreciating.
Man, it's working
now. I love this font too. It's such a sick font.
What is it?
Obviously, you know? It's called Obviously.
Oh, well, I should have known.
Obviously. So, you know, I think the easiest way by far, and I obviously don't need to have a slide for this part, is freehanding. You know, like if you're good at freehanding, you feel like you can get anything on the wall freehanding, especially at the scale that I'd paint at, go for it. Like, please go for it. I can't do it. I'm not that great. I'm not an art guy. I'm a practical guy. So, the easiest way, other than freehanding it, is projection, which of course is Spanish for projection. You know, basically a good projector will set you back about $500 to $1,000, and even better one, obviously more. Things to consider when you've got a projector are how far it can throw. And by throw, I mean like how far it can project without and magnify. The keystones, about if you're on an angle, how you can kind of make it parallel enough to the wall.
Yeah, so like where it needs to go. I used to have a projector, and yeah, you could like digitally change it so that you basically like in Photoshop how you skew something, like you can stretch the corners or minimize them to make it like kind of tilt to the shape, but there are limitations to that.
There's limitations, yeah. There's obviously limitations with people seeing you do this, and you know sometimes it's a bit taboo to reveal that you use a projector. Let's be real. I used a projection for the first 3.5 years of my three and a half years of my practice. The reason why it's a bit, you know, lack of a better word, shameful, is because it's seen as cheating, and honestly, it's not cheating. If tradies were to use their heads to bang in a nail and not a power tool, like it's the same as a power tool. Like why would you not get the job done quicker? And this is definitely the quickest way to do it. The only problem is there's a lot of setting up, and there's lots of variables like throw and keystone and stuff you don't think about, and power obviously. But this is where the next two things come into play, and I think these two things are quite crucial. Traditional grid.
Right.
So if you remember in high school, you learned to copy images based on the squares that you set up, and you know, for a designer, this might be a really cool trick because you can, I guess, mathematically work it out. But to someone like me who's not very good at maths at all, don't test me. Don't ever test me with maths. Then don't test me.
It's coming. I'll think of something.
Oh no, please. But I think everyone's laughing in the background. Shit. This is the pro to this is the fact that you get it right. You know, like you can make squares as big as small as you want, and then you can stick to your guidelines. If your measurements are perfect, then you know you're in the win. But if you're bad at maths like me, then you don't really get the chance to work things out properly. And I think that there's a lot of room for error if you miss a square, or if your squares aren't straight, squares aren't like perfectly level. There's lots of little variables. But with this as well, you can print out your design, you can map it out on your computer or your phone, and play with the transparency layers here as well. So it has its benefits. This is the method that I use. So this is called Squiggle Grid. This is made popular by Roan in Melbourne. So
what was it? Roan, R-O-N-E.
R-O-N-E, yep.
Is that a graffiti artist or someone that we should know about?
Pretty prolific street artist. So he made this this method quite popular, and there's a lot of artists I know that use this method now, and I think globally it's just easily referred to as squiggle grid, or some people call it roaning. I'm not too sure, but this is a method I use, and this is the method that got Lydia onto the wall. It's a little bit trickier, but the way that you do it, I can show you now, is that you will overlay your image over the top of this wall.
Right. So you have, so you're in Photoshop, right?
Yep.
And you've got a photo of the wall that you want to use, and you've got your digital artwork. Okay, cool.
Here it is, perfectly in sync. So I got up on the lift, and I did a bunch of squiggles. I did a bunch of random words, letters, numbers, symbols, whatever. Essentially, it doesn't matter what you do, as long as you have reference points. So I will know that once I overlay it, that Lydia's head stops at the S in greens.
Right.
Her eyes. Once I play with the transparency, everyone can see it. Her eyes will sit around the R in JESWRI, come to the end of this, and work out some shapes. So let's just pretend I'm on the wall for a second. I know that if I map out her eyes here, that I map out this.
Can you use a darker color just so we can see it a bit easier? Because I think people with smaller screens might not be able to see it as well as we can.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, I can't even see that.
This is great. So hopefully you guys can see the black lines. So this is like as if you're looking at it and you're doing these first lines. Would you be using a spray can at this point?
Sometimes I use a spray can. I think it's always good to use a color that's close to your background color, or close to the color you're going to be using to go over top of anyway.
Right.
I've got quite good at it, so I can use black just to go straight over it. Sometimes people use chalk because there's a lot of mistakes that are made. But even saying that as well, there's so many different ways, and the gift with this thing is that you can make it your own. You don't actually have to copy exactly what I'm doing. You don't have to lay down the same type of grid that I'm using. People I know that use a combination of traditional grid and this grid. And so obviously you see that I'm making like small errors, but that's because I'm using the trackpad and not a Wacom today.
That was my next question. I was going to ask if you're using the trackpad. I can hear it very softly doing the trackpaddy clicky things.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah.
So, sometimes you get to a part of the wall where you can't quite see it. You can zoom in and you just make the transparency lighter or darker. And that's the best part about having the Photoshop on your phone, is that you can make these transitions as you're going. You make these transparency adjustments.
Someone found that funny.
That is the amazing Sean Primrose. If you haven't found Sean Primrose's art yet, definitely check it out. She's amazing. Sean's one of our studio guests at Honeybones. So
cool. That's great.
Absolute
Her
delight.
shout out got her a shout out, which is great.
Shan is amazing, honestly, deserves the world. So look, basically, everyone kind of gets the gist. And if I was to speed through a little bit more, the idea is that it's not about tracing; it's about just finding reference points. So, I know that this part in the D will have a line in it. I'll work my way up to there, and I do it piece by piece. I don't necessarily take it full chunks. I just kind of guide myself as best as I can. And there's lots of room for error with this, especially the bigger you go. And that's why I said last episode that the bigger I go, the easier it is, because it's a bit more forgiving for this exact reason. And in saying that, this is probably a good time to let everyone know that this isn't just applicable for murals. You can translate your artwork onto a canvas the same way. It can be big, small scale. It can be on anything. You can really use this method to transfer your artwork onto anything.
Yeah.
So
that's really cool. Yeah, like I've never seen the technique before, like this whole idea of the squiggle grid, but it makes heaps of sense. You're kind of looking down. I think there's a bit of that experience that would be involved in something like this. Like,
of course, yeah, of course.
It's a little.
It will take a lot of practice. It will take a lot of practice.
So that designer thing of things being off by like a slight pixel, or like that looks a bit wrong, because if you look at the negative space between that shape, and that comes with the experience of
exactly.
That stuff just jumps out at you.
Exactly. So
at the
sometimes
beginning you might not see some of those things.
Sorry if I talk over you. Sometimes the ADHD gets the best of me.
It's all good.
But like, I think experience comes into the play as well, because I'm not only looking at the words or the letters or the squiggle grid, I'm also looking at the bricks as well. So I'm using two grids at once. So I know that part, if I don't have a grid there, I know that her eyebrow sits between these two words, and I can use that as a guide. That I can use the bricks as a guide to do that. So basically, the more heavier your grid is, the less room for error you're going to have. The more experience you get, the less of a grid you really need. You can just lay up a couple bits of tape and then just go, her face kind of sits there. But after everything's kind of said and done, you kind of see your mural taking shape, and that's kind of, it's just a really nice, easy way to walk through. And I personally enjoy this method way easier, because I have a digital background and I have a tangible background. So I think combining the two of them and working from my phone rather than freehanding it is a nice reference point, because I can constantly change the transparency. So I go, if I'm not getting this right, then I can go, all right, well, I can turn the transparency all the way up, and I can use different transparency layers to do it as well. Like I've got it in pin light at the moment. Really put on anything. But yeah, that's just kind of my approach to doing it. And you don't really need, like, you can practice at home, you can practice small scale, you can practice on a wall. I think this is the best thing, because it's one of those take-home methods as well that you can try it yourself.
Yeah.
But like you said, it does take a bit of experience to do, and I think it's not for the faint-hearted. But don't try this on a paid job. Try it on your own first. But yeah, this is a bit of a taboo thing as well. Like a lot of street artists don't really like a lot of people knowing this stuff as well. But I'm of the opinion that I want to, remove a lot of gatekeepers from the industry, and and bring in people who want to learn, people that are hungry to learn. I feel that if you're willing to learn this and willing to try it, then why not?
I think every industry has that, like people not wanting to kind of give away the secrets, but also we've all learned from someone. So it's kind of
exactly.
It's okay for me to have learned it, but I don't want anyone else to learn it.
I wanted to be a tattoo artist when I was younger, and I was like, oh, well, this seems like too hard to get into, so maybe I won't. My exact point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely across the board. It's more than this industry, but I think part of me paving my own way is that I want to be able to, be accessible, and I want to be open, and I want everyone to do it. And if I can live in a world that is more accessible and open to street art, that's a pretty good world to live in. So if it gives designers the chance to stretch out and have something tangible, then sick. If it gives his illustrators a way to upscale their work, great. And the thing is as well, is you can really use this method for for sign writing as well. If you wanted to use this method for putting your logo on your door, not to like cut the rest of my industry out, but like it kind of gives a lot of people a chance to DIY it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously there'll be a technical difference, but yeah, you can kind of see it coming together, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a question about the color. So this is for the line work, right? So when it comes to color, do you do the line work first when you're doing a mural and then the color, or do you do the background color? Because if you did the background color first, you wouldn't see the grid anymore. So how's that work from a practical perspective?
Yeah, I think so. You can always just do it in one go, you know. So like if I've got this style now where I can go, I can see where the background starts, and it starts outside the design. So if I I'll do this in a way that everyone can kind of see closer, so they can see how I'm going. But the background, I guess you just kind of mark it out, right? And that kind of the same things for the tones and the color as well. You can mark out as much as you really want to. It just depends on how much time you have and how much willingness you have to clean up your work later. For me, I found that when I mark it out and I paint over it with a color that's a bit watered down, I can still see some of the black outline through the paint.
Right.
Even if it's like with a 3D texture, or if it's with or it's just like a bit transparent with the paint, that means I can keep working. My personal way is marking out the given features that I need to. So like the eyes, close, please, thank you. The eyes, the mouth, the hair, kind of where I need to put a lot of block color. Sometimes I'll even go ways where I'll mark out where I need to put some shading, and I'll put it in different colors. I'll probably grab like another spray can or something. I'll probably grab like a red or a pink spray can and go like, all right, well, the tones kind of sit around this area, and I'll map out my tones. And I know, like for me, I know where most of the highlights and stuff are going to go automatically, but that can also change the way someone's face and shape look. So if it's someone that you need to really look like them, I would say you can do this method a couple of times, and you can even use your design that you've done on the wall as another grid just by repeating the method and using your messed up design as an actual grid as well. So for me, this is the perfect way of nailing every portrait as best as I can. So
yeah, because when it comes to portraiture, like you got to make sure that it looks like the person, right? So there's the freestyle approach to it, but if you get someone's, it's so subtle, like faces, like how far away eyes might be, or the size, the type of eyebrows, the shape of nose, the angle that they're at, lips, like everything, the jawline, everything about it. Even the hair, like in this example, you didn't just go, oh, okay, I'll just put some hair on. You went and found a photo of her actual hair, because the thickness and how it sits on her shoulders and how much will be at front. Are there bangs, no bangs, all that sort of stuff?
Oh my god! There's even more pressure as well when you know that person's coming to see the wall. So the fact that, like, even with that Dylan Alcott mural that I did, the fact that I knew that he was coming down and I'd done 3 portraits of him, I was like, I need to make sure everything is looking finessed. And even his dog, I was like, the dog has to look like his dog. Imagine someone painted your dog and you're like, that's not my dog.
It's not my dog. Like, that's just some other Labrador. Yeah, I get that.
Who is this?
That's like, getting into that detail. For those of you who've just joined us, we're here at JESWRI and we're going through the process of creating a mural. So if you have any questions while we're going along, feel free to throw them in chat at Behance or on YouTube, and we'll ask away as we roll along. There was another question before that I'd missed. We're talking about people, like, in the environment and, someone throwing a tag up or throwing paint on something. The question was, would you ever consider making a piece that encourages people to mess with it?
Interesting.
I'm going to guess no, not yet, because that seems like it might be a new idea. But that's an really interesting idea.
I haven't thought about it. I think it obviously opens up the conversation for a lot of dictation tags as well. So maybe it's a good idea. Maybe it can go sour really quickly.
Yeah, it could. I can see some ways that it would go badly as well.
Yeah. I think if it's in a controlled environment, sure. is part of a workshop experience. And yeah, definitely, I've done projects where I've done stuff for schools, and the kids will come through and like paint as I'm going and help me fill in some spaces. But in regards to like fairly interactive stuff, not really. I feel that's obviously a very new school approach to have like interactive things, but I wanted this to be a statement piece, so I wanted to have my voice and Lydia's voice and Aboriginal voices heard. So
yeah,
not a lot of room, unfortunately, in this one for some interactivity.
Yeah, let us know what you think down the bottom. Might not be appropriate for this particular artwork. I can see.
Yeah, literally.
I can see the practicality of that.
You had a question before about like how I'd go around doing the background, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I think to answer that question, I would kind of just do it the same thing. Yeah, I would like mark out where I need to go, and that would also help me shape the mural as well. So I guess I lay down solid color first, and whatever I need to, I can go. But you know, with the reference from the computer or from my phone, I can really just keep going. There's no real stop point. There's no real like having to recheck things. I'm just constantly referencing things and constantly like things, so I can mark out, go like, you know, this is my black area, this is my yellow area, this is my red area, and I can like, it's a simple color. But yeah, sometimes I don't map out the features, like the portrait features on the face. Like you can just do it fairly like block shapey way. A lot of people, when they're doing tones, they take this approach where they'll do like dots,
right,
to differentiate the tones. That seems like a lot of work, but that's their thing. So like I said, this is my method to put it on the wall. There's so many different methods. So there's the grid method, there's the projection method. The projection method is definitely the quickest, but also the most tedious to set up. So this is actually, in my opinion, quicker to set up, takes longer to transfer your design onto a wall, but also you don't have to stop and restart every time. Like if a projection, you're kind of relying on time and power and like other things. So it's like,
yeah, I imagine the type of light as well. Like it'll work a lot better at night, obviously, or it would work a lot better if it's overcast. But if it's really sunny day, there could be reflections, and I don't know.
Well, this way, like painting more and more in the streets as opposed to like commercial murals and stuff like that. Painting more and more in the streets has actually made me do this style, because I can't take a projection to all my jobs, and with daylight savings, you know, I'm given a much shorter window, and my adult years, my ability to stay up is not as prolific as I once was.
Yeah. We have about 15 minutes left. I know we had some other stuff we wanted to talk about, so I don't know if you want to jump over into that now.
Yeah, let's do it.
What do you think?
Let's do it.
Cool.
Let's do it. Okay, we're gonna play this one as we go. So I only really thought about doing this a little bit before the this lecture today happened, whatever you want to call it, this masterclass. So every time I do an Adobe live session, I always get the occasional comment like, you know, when's the best time to start doing street art? When's the best time to go on my own? When's the best time to do this? How do I do that? What's your approach to doing this? And they're all seem kind of like business and entrepreneurial related. So me taking elements from what I do and kind of sharing it to the world, I do it with references, and that's kind of what people know me as. So I thought this would be the best time to bring in my hip hop references to Adobe Masterclass.
It's Wu-Tang, isn't it?
It's not Wu-Tang, I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's Biggie Smalls.
Oh,
you were so close. I mean, in many ways, cash does rule everything around me.
Yeah.
And I'm often protecting my neck.
You have to diversify your bonds. Yeah.
Exactly. I love that skit.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so we're going to take this bit by bit, and I want people to interact with me as much as they can or ask questions along the way. So rule number one for street art commandments is never let no one know how much dough you hold. And so that is about not necessarily telling the client how much you would really do it for, and also not telling how much, not like finding that middle ground, but how much you would do it for versus how much would be your effort rate. and when I say effort rate, I mean rate.
Yeah, so there's like the difference between like how much it would actually cost you to do and how much you will be okay to get out of bed and do it and all that sort of stuff compared to actually what you charge could be very different. I think that comes with experience a lot. Like there's
experience,
there's like your day rate, and then there's also like the value of what you do, which I think increases a lot over time. Sorry, not meaning to jump in, but I thought we'd have a chat about it as we go through.
This is a collaborative thing, my friend. So I mean, like I've quoted jobs before, like pretty prolific jobs, and they've gone like, okay, well, you know, we like you, so we'll just give you an extra $2,000 on top, which sounds absurd, but it happens. So I guess not really letting anyone know what you would do it for, and kind of holding out. I guess just kind of knowing your worth, really. Rule number 2: never let them know your next move. So I think anyone who follows my social accounts will know that I'm just busy on busy on busy, and that's obviously by design. A lot of my branding is about how hard I work and how hard I hustle, but equally, no one also knows the next project I'm doing. I'm a big believer in like not jinxing your projects, and if going like, I'm not going to tell anyone that I've got this massive project at the end of the year that I'm really excited about worth this much, and I'm just going to keep that to myself until the time's right. That way I can get excited about it, everyone can get excited about it with me, and be a part of my journey as well. It's all about community. Rule number 3: never trust nobody. So the big thing is that I've had to learn the hard way, and no one's really ever taught me these things about how I put in my contracts. But I find myself always helping other artists with their contracts. The reason why I say never trust nobody is because you want to be able to look after yourself when it comes to contracts. You know, you want to be like, in my contracts, I've got things like tradie fees. If there's tradies on site that bother me or play with my hearing or play with my site or whatever, like I charge more.
Like actual tradies, like if there's like it's a site where there's like other people around and they they get in the way. They're like, oh no, we need to park our car here for the day, or their truck, and you're like, I'm painting a mural, and they're like, I don't care, I'm more important. Basically it's not a hobby, it's a job, you know. It's a career. You want to take yourself serious. You want to have contracts that set up that actually make sure that you can be looked after and look after yourself. So if a tradie's in my way, the client's paying for it because the client should know. If a tradie's like setting up a jigsaw right behind my head, but I'm trying to get creative and be interactive and intuitive with the wall, I'm not going to be as creative as I can, so therefore someone's going to suffer, and it's not me. So basically about setting yourself up contractually, you know, things like late fees, things like you know, I like to think of looking after myself contractually, like is it the Red Hot Chili Peppers? No. I've drawn a blank. Whoever's there's his band, Mick Jagger, Rolling Stones. There we go. Rolling
Stones have a clause in their contract about the red M&Ms, and so they demand that they have red M&Ms in their contracts every time they come to a gig, and they know that if nobody's read their contract, they know if they don't have red M&Ms that nobody's read their contract. And so they know they can have a crap experience. So they put in their contract about red M&Ms and having red M&Ms only. And when they arrive and they have red M&Ms, they know they've been looked after. So
that's a really interesting one.
If anybody has any contractual things they want to ask me, or even Flynn as well.
I've got one. Do you write your own contract? Do you have like a contract? I'm just turning my mic down because I can hear a bit of an echo coming through your side. Do you have your own contract or contract template that you send to clients? Because sometimes it goes the other way, and then the client will say, hey, here's our contract, read this. So what do you do in that situation?
I have a look through it and play it by ear. So like if they've got a contract, I'll make sure it suits me, you know, things like IP, things like copyright. Basically, I'll just make sure I'm not getting taken advantage of, but also that contract is to make sure they don't get taken advantage of either. So it's a two-party swing. Like I've got my contract, I always get them to sign it before they start, and they've got their contract. If they want me to sign it, I can sign it too. But I've always got mine. Everyone always signs mine. And that's just part of me looking after myself, because I'm not a hobbyist. I'm a career man. So
great.
But yeah, anybody who wants to chat outside of this chat that wants to ask stuff like that, my door's open.
Nice.
Never get high on your own supply. And so this one is about like having little ego when you're in the art world about being like a person that just always has their door open once, like kind of leaning on that last one, just about dropping the ego, stop being entitled. I feel like entitled people in this industry don't make it very far, whether it's creative, whether it's design, whether it's mural, street art, anything. I feel like people that are entitled don't really get that far. It's the hungry people, the hungry, happy, just like horny individuals.
Yeah, no, I like, just on that point, I remember there was a quote years and years and years ago from Stefan Sagmeister, who was like, no one wants to work with a talented a-hole, and he's top of his game, and he would work with lots and lots of people. But it's true, like,
very true.
You get treated how you treat other people, like, and when you're starting out, it can seem like there's millions and millions of people in the design and creative industries, but I'm sure you feel the same way with me, Jesse. It's actually really small. Like, you interact with people a lot.
So small.
And people have a reputation, and there are definitely there's blacklisted companies that people are like, no, I don't work for them, they never pay you. There's blacklisted artists and designers who are like, no, they're an absolute nightmare to deal with, like way too hard, or didn't deliver on time, or they're just not nice to work with, or they change things, so your reputation will precede you as a creative artist, I would say. Certainly in Australia, I'm sure it's the same everywhere.
Big time. And that's why I try and just stay like down to earth and colloquial and like approachable and honest and everything. So like if I'm having a hard day at work, then like I let my client know, like, hey, I'm having a bad sting today. I'm like, I've got depression. This is like, it's going to go a bit slower today. Hope you don't mind. And so it's a transparency too, but like, I'm not entitled. I just know what I want, know what I get, know what I deserve. But there's a difference between knowing what you deserve and feeling like you deserve it.
Yeah.
So if that makes sense.
I like that. That's good.
Dogs are going crazy in the background. Never sell no crack where you rest at. So
good advice for life and also creativity. Let's unpack.
Let's unpack this. I'm also just going to make this a bit more PC. So I've learned the hard way in the last few months to just make sure I'm taking care of my mental health. And part of that is learning to know when I need to rest and learning to know when I need to say no. And so now I'm in this train where I'm trying to say yes to only the things that I want to say yes to, and saying no to the things that aren't going to benefit my career. If that makes sense. I think my brain worked too quick on that one. Either way, just about having some downtime and knowing when to say no and rest up, because it's a big race ahead. And if you get a chance to rest, then you need to rest. What someone said to me a while ago, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And so I take that into account all the time. That goddamn credit, dead it. So part of the contractual thing is I learned the very hard way to always get a deposit. This is something that's across the board. And I remember starting out in design school when I was doing design jobs. I was like, don't worry, they will pay me. It's fine. It's completely fine. They'll pay me later. And the amount of times those jobs fell through because they didn't have a deposit, bang.
Yeah.
So anyway, I always take a deposit.
I think it can also be a self-fulfilling prophecy, that sort of thing as well. Like, someone engages you, you start doing all this work, and then they cancel it. And for some people, like the clients and just people, friends, whatever, whoever you're working with, they say, actually, I'm not going to do that anymore. Don't worry about it. I've stopped it before anything went ahead. But actually, from your perspective, you're like, I've done like 2 weeks of work here. Yeah. I haven't stopped anything. But actually, if they'd already ponied up and already put the money in, maybe they would have even gone ahead, because they've actually got skin in the game. Or maybe when you say, hey, this is my price, I need 50% up front, they're going to say, oh, I'm not quite ready for that. And you say, great, thanks for letting me know, because I'm not ready either. If you're not ready to pay even 50%, then let's park this until you have it and you're serious.
I was the best example of this is, like, I was doing a job, or supposed to be doing a job a couple of weeks ago, and they gave me, it was only a fraction deposit because I was this cashy, long story, but the deposit that they gave me was enough to buy paint. And I was like, you know what, like, you can pay me in cash when we start the job, whatever. But the portion of money they gave me was to buy paint. And so I bought paint the day before the job was supposed to start. The job was a 2-hour drive. I had to make sure I get the paint before I left for the drive. So they cancel on me midnight the day before the job.
Oof.
And I said, that's fine because I've already bought the paint and I can't give you a refund because I bought the paint.
Right.
And then, yeah, they weren't happy, but it's contractual, so.
Yeah, and hey, free paint. But yeah, that's the way it is. Yeah, cancelling midnight the night before, that's a rough one.
You'll get those.
Yeah, you get them. Okay.
Keep your family and business completely separated. So this one's a quick and easy one. You know, I personally don't like to hire my friends and family. If it's easy jobs, sure, but I feel like sometimes it's best to hire people that are better than you at your job. I also feel that if you get tied up in family and business, then obviously it just gets ugly and you lose friends and it's not fun. I've lost friends in the business from doing this, and it sounds cliche, but it's obviously very, very true. And take it from me from experience.
Shout out for the Dunder Mifflin hat, the DM Does GB hats.
Yeah,
just a great episode.
I'm a big office mark.
Yeah.
Never keep no weight on you. This is a real easy one, honestly. Don't burn yourself out. And that's honestly just like, I learned that so hard, and I've been like, ADHD, man. Burned myself out real quick. And it's funny.
Yeah, so it's just around like not taking on too much, right? Like, don't, try not to, which can be very difficult to do, because, I'm sure you feel the same way, and a lot of freelancers and contractors and things feel the same way. It's almost like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to pay my rent next month or week or whatever. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to take a break for the rest of my life. I've got too much work. Finding that happy middle center can be very difficult, and something that can take time, take a couple of years, many years even.
This rule is so important, and I'm so tired of people in this industry just like taking advantage of like hungry creatives and artists. Don't do any work for free unless you want to do it. Don't get paid in exposure dollars. Don't do free EOIs. If you see people doing free designs for expressions of interest, call them out. Like, it's the same as free internships. Free work doesn't exist unless you actually want to do it. Unless you're passionate about it, unless it betters yourself, don't get paid in exposure dollars. If you ain't getting bags, don't do it. dollar bags, not dime bags. Anyway, and the last final thing is a strong word called consignment. I might leave this to everyone else. What does everyone think this means?
Strong word called consignment.
There we go. So basically,
yeah, okay.
I was going to say it. We'll wait and see if anyone has it. Basically, it's quite easy. I feel that do everything in your willpower, because your portfolio speaks for yourself. If you take on a job that isn't your job, or if you take on a job that's more than you can chew, then you probably need to avoid it, because you want to be able to boost your portfolio. You want to be able to showcase what you do best. You don't want to be able to showcase what other people do best and make yourself look crap. The amount of times I've put forward, like in the beginning, obviously, put forward like other people's work, going like, oh, it can look like this, it can look like that, but it's not my work. It's not something that I've done first. If you haven't done it first, like try it out, practice it, and then maybe present that. And equally, that goes the other way as well. Like if a client comes to you and going like, hey, we want it to look like this, and you go, that's not my work, then they either need to go to that artist or they come to you for your work. And so the idea of this is to like produce the work that you do best and like do what gets you to the race. Because there's been heaps of times, it still happens to me as well. Like people ask me to paint like Aboriginal art. People will ask me to paint work that isn't mine, and I just say, look at my folio. Like, what's in my folio? Pick what's in my folio. Look. It's the proof is in the pudding,
Yeah.
So, don't commit to things you can't do necessarily, or don't allow yourself to be pushed in a position where you do things that you can't do per se.
Yeah, and I think that's really cool. Like I know, and I'm sure you do it as well with like the network that you have. I know a lot of artists as well. They'll say, actually, I don't do that, but this is someone I know that's really great that might do something like that. And like actually saying, or even when you're too busy, there's too much going on. It's like, hey, like actually, this artist over here could be interested. Like that's a really great way of like supporting the community and helping each other out, and what goes around comes around, right? Yeah,
big time. I mean, so I get asked to do work sometimes that just doesn't fit either my timelines or my schedules, or it just may not be something I'm interested in doing. At that moment, I'm really saying no to a lot of residential work, because unless it's like the best residential work I can do, I can pass it on to people that are just as hungry. I can pass it on to my friends that I know that want to do some work, or if I feel that it's probably more suited to them anyway, I'm more than happy to put people forward, and I do it quite often.
I think it's great. We're going to have to leave it at that, or we're going to be cut off, dude. Thank you so much for spending time with us. Time has crept up. Thanks for everyone for joining us. Stay tuned for more Adobe Live. We'll be back next week. JESWRI, thank you so much, mate, and we'll see you later.
Love you.
Bye.